What if the most dangerous threat in the silo right now is not the hidden algorithm or even the poisonous air outside, but the person who just took a seat at the head of the table? Because after rewatching the trailer for Silo Season 3, Episode 7 dozens of times, I noticed one specific detail in the background that changes everything we thought about the next mission. We have been so focused on Juliette's plan to reach Silo 17 that we completely missed the signal the show is quietly sending us about who is really pulling the strings. And honestly, the scarier truth is that the algorithm might just be the mask for a villain who is much more human, much more personal, and much closer than anyone realizes. Alright, welcome back to Breakdown Epic. Let's get into it. Quick spoiler warning before we get into it. Now, Episode 7, titled What if the most dangerous threat in the silo right now is not the hidden algorithm or even the poisonous air outside, but the person who just took a seat at the head of the table? Because after rewatching the trailer for Silo Season 3, Episode 7 dozens of times, I noticed one specific detail in the background that changes everything we thought about the next mission. We have been so focused on Juliette's plan to reach Silo 17 that we completely missed the signal the show is quietly sending us about who is really pulling the strings. And honestly, the scarier truth is that the algorithm might just be the mask for a villain who is much more human, much more personal, and much closer than anyone realizes. Alright, welcome back to Breakdown Epic. Let's get into it. Quick spoiler warning before we get into it. Now, Episode 7, titled Radio, is clearly setting us up for a massive collision, but if you look closely at the leaked images and the trailer footage, the real story isn't just about communication, it's about exposure. We see Juliette sending Lucas and Kennedy on what looks like a desperate rescue mission, but there is a frame where the surveillance monitors in the background show something that almost nobody's talking about. It's a tracking sequence that suggests the algorithm is not reacting to their move, but actually guiding it. And that brings me to the biggest hidden detail you might have missed, the look on Camille's face in the latest still. If you zoom in, she doesn't look like a wife worried about her husband, Robert Sims.
She looks like a leader who has already decided he is a liability. In my opinion, this is the moment the real villain of the season is revealed. And it isn't a machine. It's the people who choose to believe the machine's logic over their own families. Personally, I think Camille has already crossed the point of no return by putting the memory medication in the water without approval, and Episode 7 is going to show us the fallout of that power trip. Now let's talk about Daniel and Helen, because there's a shocking detail in the flashback timeline that connects directly to the present-day Silo 18. In the scene where Helen is walking into the presentation, if you look at her lanyard, you can see the number 18. This isn't just a random number, it's a confirmation that the fate of Daniel and Helen is already locked into the history of the very silo Juliette is trying to save. But here is the what-if moment that keeps me up at night. What if Daniel Keane isn't just the voice of the algorithm, but the person who designed its moral code? If he chooses to join Pierre Stinson to save the world, he might be the one who decided that the only way to survive is to force everyone else to forget. Wait, let me go back to that for a second, because it connects to the title itself. Radio is about contact, but in the silo, contact is a crime.
The second Lucas and Kennedy try to transmit from Silo 17, they aren't just breaking a rule, they are triggering a selection process. I'm going to lock in a prediction here. The mission to Silo 17 is actually a trap designed by the algorithm to see who in Silo 18 is still capable of independent thought. The real villain doesn't want to stop the rebellion. They want to identify every single rebel at once so they can trigger the Great Reset with precision. And that is where Paul Billings comes in. In the trailer, there's a quick shot of him looking at a set of files that seem to match the old-world documents Helen was digging through. If Billings finds a bridge between the past and the present, he becomes the most dangerous man in the silo, because he has the authority to actually speak the truth out loud. But the question is, will he have the heart to do it if it means condemning his own wife? Honestly, what stood out to me most is how isolated everyone feels in this trailer. Even when they are in the same room, nobody is looking at each other. They're all looking at screens, at radios, or into the dark. That visual detail is telling us that the community has already fractured. The real horror of Episode 7 isn't going to be a monster attack. It's going to be the silence after a betrayal. Camille threatening Robert to tell the truth is not a conversation. It's an interrogation. And if Robert is really the dead man walking that the leaks suggest, then his sacrifice might be the only thing that gives Juliette enough time to finish the mission. So, before I finish, let's do a fast-fire recap of the most important things you missed. First, the background monitors suggest the Silo 17 mission is being monitored in real time. Second, Helen's lanyard confirms her direct tie to Silo 18's first generation. Third, Camille is now acting independently of the algorithm's original commands, making her the active antagonist. Fourth, the radio title implies that Silo 1 is listening to every single word being said in the dark. And finally, the Pez dispenser from the past is the anchor that will eventually break Juliette's memory suppression for good. Overall, Episode 7 looks like it's going to be the most revealing and devastating chapter of the season. The pieces are finally coming together, and the picture they are painting is not one of hope, but of a system that is ready to burn everything down just to stay in control. But there is one more detail I didn't mention on purpose, something about the way the algorithm's voice shifts in the final seconds of the trailer. I want to see if anyone in the comments caught that change in tone. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know, who do you think the real villain is? The machine or the people who refuse to stop obeying it? I will catch you in the next one.